That is what we are going to achieve in this. You report directly to the CFO. Focus on each of these. Dear students, welcome to the paper discussion session of ACCA SBL. For this series, I have chosen the December 2024 session paper, and I'll be going through in different sessions with you. I'll conduct a discussion on each question and will explain how the marks would be graded on that, how the examiner is looking at the appropriate answers, how you can develop the answer, what are the appropriate formats that you need to use and how. And in addition to that, very important part, how to get the professional skills marks wherever it is mentioned in the paper. Now, before starting with the discussion on this, I would highly recommend that you go through the support material that has been provided along with this uh, video. Primarily for today's session, you have to go through the pre-scene of this. Secondly, as we are going to discuss about the portfolio analysis of the business, BEAGO, so you have to go through that document as well. We will provide you with the required resources along with the video. So let's get started with it. Just a bit of a background of the business. The case study is about a business in the transport network, BEAGO. It is a transport network company, TNC, based in the country of Beeland. Your role primarily is that of a senior business analyst working in finance department primarily, even though the requirement, especially today's requirement, is not specifically with the finance. You report directly to the CFO, and you are also often asked to carry out different tasks for the board members and senior managers. The current year of discussion in this scenario is year 2014. Coming to the first question that we have at our hand, BEAGO is a board of director and is about to meet to discuss its current service portfolio and how it should be managed. Instead of product, because this is a service industry, we are talking about services. In advance of the meeting, the Chief Marketing Officer, has sent the members of the board the current service portfolio information. This is available as an extra, as an exhibit, compiled by the marketing department to assess the discussion. The Chief Financial Officer has asked for your assistance in preparing for this board meeting. Let me quickly show you the data with you as well. Otherwise, I've also shared it right here with you. There are 4 products that we will be talking about from BEAGO: ride sharing, ride hailing, micro mobility, and business services. I strongly urge you that when you go through the pre-scene material, focus on each of these, though I will be explaining to you what these are as well. For some, the name is very, very common, like ride sharing. People share this ride. Ride hailing, they call the ride especially for themselves. Okay, so let's get back to the discussion slide. Excuse me. Okay, now what is required? This is the primary requirement of the question. Prepare a report for CFO which assesses BEAGO's current services a portfolio to determine the appropriate strategies to manage the portfolio effectively. Now, key area is you have to prepare a report. This is the format that we have to follow, and you have to assess. The keyword or the command word is assess BEAGO's excuse me, BEAGO's portfolio. Second important area is that which professional skills are to be tested here. Analysis skills in considering and reflecting on the information provided by the marketing department to identify how BEAGO could manage its service portfolio effectively. Okay, so you have to provide two areas are to be focused. One is the service portfolio itself, and second, it has to be analyzed properly. In order to guide you how to answer this question or how to format this question, there will be two primary parts, rather three. In the first part, I'll explain you how to do this part, how to assess the portfolio. In the second part, I'll show you what will get you the best analysis skills that will be based on the rubrics or the exam key or the answer key provided by ACCA. And after that, I'll show you a sample answer as well. Okay. So the first part, the general guidelines for this session. Now, the answers, you have to understand this. Obviously, this is a theory paper, and we cannot expect to spoon feed you each and every sentence. But this practice will give you a guideline on how to prepare the answer. What I strongly suggest is that after going through the first two areas, that is the guidelines of the BCG matrix that I'll be applying and the analysis skills that I will be applying, before you pause the video over there. There will be a sample slide or a sample answer slide over there. You pause the video right there. Then you go and attempt the answer. Then come back and read how I have prepared the sample answer for you. And then you will be able to compare and find out the mistakes that you have carried out. See, this is not a numeric based question that you would have a right or wrong answer. The answer should have all the valid points. And in addition to that, an interesting thing is that when a teacher, especially in a theory paper, especially like this SBL, when I as a tutor am guiding you, giving you some points, it may not cover all the points that may come to your mind as well. So it is very, very likely that when you are reading, you may analyze in a different way. As long as it is an appropriate point, do not worry about it. You will get marks for it. So it's not like that if I am giving you some points and you have to stick to them, and obviously this paper is not going to be repeated. So you have to just get a general gist of it, a grasp of how we extract the information and how we analyze it strategically. So the answers that we are going to suggest as tutors, especially in SBL, may not cover all the valid points that you may come across. Then relevant and appropriate points, even if not suggested in this answer, will earn the credit, and that is true for the paper as well. For the paper, a general guideline is given to the examiner, even though they try to cover all the areas, but it is not necessary. Maybe there is a point that the candidate has found out and that did not came across the mind of the examiner. That can happen. So you will get the points, but that has to be appropriately pointed out. That is what we are going to achieve in this session. Now, integrated case study format, candidates, you may refer back to the points from other questions, because this is an integrated case study. The questions that may be, for example, this part which I'm trying to do is the question 1. Now, in the later, suppose when we are doing question number 3, you can take the points from the answer that you have already provided in 1 and link it up in the later part. So these questions are not isolated. You may take information from one question and put it in the other. Obviously, no redundancy. You do not need to repeat those things, but you can build on further when you are applying a later answer, and you can take information from the first, from the former ones. The level of detail, these suggested answers are more in detail because we want to explain, trying to explain all of the areas. So you are not expected to do all of that in that portion. Remember, I've already prepared a video on how to use time for related to per question. So if you practice that along with this, you will be fine. So it is not necessary that you put in all the information. As long as you put in the appropriate points appropriately and you have explained them as required, then you're fine. What is required? The purpose of this suggested answer is to provide you a clear structure and approach that will be expected from you, to demonstrate the range and depth of knowledge which is expected from top performing candidates, and finally serve as a helpful resource for revision and tuition for future examination. This is the purpose of this session. So the first part now, because we have a portfolio matrix, obviously the first step towards that is we have to go to the BCG matrix, that is the Boston Consultancy Group matrix. The answer structure, this is the first part, the BCG matrix. How could you apply that? I'm giving you some bullet points. And after that, after the analysis of the analysis points, you can go back, attempt the answer, and come back and check with the answer that I'll explain in a while. Okay. Now, 1 up to 2 marks for each relevant point applied made in relation to BEAGO's current service portfolio and how it should be managed. When you see the portfolio exhibit, you would know that they have categorically given you the market growth rate as well as the RMS, relevant market share of this company. They have also given you the comparative market share of the competitors as well. Now, for a general point of discussion, we know that if the market growth rate is greater than 10%, we call it a high market growth rate, and if it is less than 10%, we categorize it as a low market growth rate. For market share, you will have to consult the case study where they have given you. In one of the cases, it will be the leading firm, and in the rest of them, it will have the low market share. So we know that in BCG matrix, we on the X and Y axes, in X-axis, we have the relative market share, and in Y-axis, we have the market growth rate. Now, obviously, it is a bit difficult to prepare, and then it is not even required in the paper to draw the BCG matrix. As long as you can have a picture in your mind and you can refer back to it, that is fine. So that you do not mix where the dogs are, where the cash cows are, then you're fine. Okay. So the first one, and obviously this is a matrix. You need not to start with the question marks. You can start with the dogs or whatever, as long as you have identified. So the first area, when you have analyzed the situation, you will know that this system, this organization does not have any cash cows. That's a spoiler. So you have to, when you go through the data, within first 5 or 6 minutes, you will realize that there is no cash cow. This is but natural. When you go to the exhibit, you will quickly try to find out that which one is which. But that is not, the identification is not the important bit. Well, not of a high importance. It is important for the future discussion or for the further analysis and discussion. For that identification is required. But that is not all. That is what I'm trying to say. If you just highlight that this is dog, this is star, that's not enough. Okay. So, but that is the starting point. The first, ride-hailing services, they have high market growth rate, 11%, but their relative market share is very low. Customer preference for non-owned transport is growing urban population. That is a good thing. That links us with the market growth rate. More focus, so you can analyze for analysis point. Why is the market growth rate increasing for this one? Because of this social factor. And maybe later on, whenever you need to refer to the pest analysis, you could take this into account, but not in this one. More focus and investment in winning more market share is required, because Zenbi is another competitor which is gaining on you, which has already gained on you. Enhanced customer service and targeted marketing is required. Business services is also another one, second one. High market growth rate of 15%, even more than that of ride hailing. And RMS is low as compared to the highest competitor, which is Depart. Significant investment is needed here because there is a lot of gap between the top competitor and yourself. dedicated business service fleet is required. The part will make this difficult because it is already a competitor and has high market share than you. So in question marks, or in this case, we have two products or two services that fall in this category out of four given. So this means obviously we have one minus, which is cash cow actually. Now you will get up to 8 marks on this analysis. Then are the stars. The micro mobility service, that is their growth rate is 14%. That is also quite high. RMS is high as the market leader. In this category, your business is the market leader. This is the high market share high market share service, as well as the market growth rate is very high. Now, it is increasing popularity because it is a sustainable transport, requires sustained investment as well. Advising and infrastructure is advertising and infrastructure is required. Now, you could convert it into cash cows later on, because we know that in the due course of time, when the market will eventually become stagnant and market growth rate will decline, if we have sustained that position at that time, the very same organization will become cash cow. Now, why this point important in this category? In this question, it is because we do not have any cash cows at the moment. So we know that we need cash cows to support other businesses, especially the question marks or problem child, or sometimes for the stars as well. But having a cash cow being absent, that is a true problem for this organization. Okay. Up to 5 marks for this. No cash cows. Now, no cash cow does not mean that you do not mention them. You mention them, but you say that there is no cash cow available. And why is that important? That just like I explained. So no cash cow to develop or support the portfolio. Market growth declines and revenue stagnant. Star become cash cow, that I explained over there. Cash cow generates support to other services. Now, without the cash cows, risk of insufficient cash to sustain growth. And see, you will have about 5 marks for this one. Finally, the dogs. Ride sharing is the dogs category because it is a low market share and with a low growth rate. Customers, they prefer ride hailing services. Now, the problem is that RMS Dell is significantly more market share, which is another competitor. Here, this is going to be a very important point. These two. Usually, for dogs, we suggest a divestment. But the problem in this case, when you refer to the pre-scene, and you will know that this was their original idea of the business, ride sharing. Now, if they divest this will have a negative impact on the business. Again, from analysis point of view, this is very, very important, that if they have, they started with this, and this is their basic idea of the whole organization. This is sort of it's not their flagship service. It's not the leading service, but that was what they started it with. So that is the foundation of even though now they are lagging behind this, but that was their initial idea of starting the service. This will give out a very, very wrong message if they move away from their original principle. So this plays an overall role in supporting the portfolio. Even the theory suggests that we should divest it. So this is also a classic example of how we apply the theory to the current scenario, and which tells us that the theory may not always be suitable to be applied as it suggests. Okay. Next is the general guideline on how the marks are to be allocated under the skills approach. Okay. I'll just give you the two main ideas, that when the candidates do not get marks at all, and when they do it very well in terms of analysis. Analysis skills in considering and reflecting on information provided by the marketing department to identify how BEAGO could manage its service effectively. And secondly, you have to write it in a report format that also carries marks. Now, when you do not get any professional skills marks, that is 0 marks, when will it be? The candidates demonstrate no analysis skills, means only identification. So you only identify, you will get 1 or 2 marks for the identification, But for analysis, you do not get any marks. The candidates failed to effectively consider any of the marketing department information, and there was no evidence of reflection on how BEAGO could manage a service portfolio. The exhibit tells you what is the market share and what are the different competitors. You do not refer to them when you are discussing. You just say that this service is a dog, this service is a question mark. That is not enough. So you have to refer back and get the data, extract the data, and use that data in your answer as well. Very well part will be the candidate demonstrated excellence in analysis skills, linking up things. The candidates made full use of the marketing department information. There was clear evidence of well applied reflection on how BEAGO could manage its service portfolio, just like I explained in the bits. The answer was presented in a suitable report format. That is also a very, very important area. Okay. Now, based on this scenario, I recommend you that you pause your answer, download the required things for the exhibits, that is the pre-scene, and for this question at least, download the exhibit, the portfolio exhibit from the marketing information, and write an answer on the report format. When you're done with that, come to the rest of the video, play it, and compare your answer with the video. Again, I may have explained some points more than required. Don't worry about it. As long as you've covered all the points which you think are appropriate and you haven't missed out on any information. And maybe there is another point which is not explained over here. You have included it as well as it is supported by evidence, then that is also fine. Okay. Now, the report format to the Chief Finance Officer from Senior Business Analyst, which is your role. Date is whatever, September 2014. Report, BEAGO's service portfolio. Introduction, that is the first part of the, because in this we use the headings. In the report format, we have to use the headings. You have to give a bit of a background of what you are going to discuss in this. This report will evaluate, again, you're not required to rote learn this. As long as you have given sufficient introduction and background, that is fine. This report will evaluate or assess, you could use that word as well because it was used in the paper, assess the range of services currently provided by BEAGO to identify most suitable approach for managing its service portfolio. A helpful framework for this analysis is Boston Consultancy Group Matrix. Remember that it is not per se required to refer to the theory factor or the theory, but it is always good, which assesses the services based on two main factors, relevant market share and the market growth rate. Here you are giving a bit of a background. By plotting BEAGO's service on this matrix, we can identify areas where additional resources should be invested, where the cash can be withdrawn to support. You are explaining why is BCG matrix important, other expanding areas, and which services may be candidates for divestment. The goal is to support corporate level investment decision. In BCG matrix, a bit of a background, a horizontal axis represent the RMS, relative market share, indicating how competitive BEAGO is as compared to the largest competitor in the market. A higher relative market share means BEAGO has similar or greater share than its top rival, which typically leads to higher cash generation due to cost advantage and economies of scale. The vertical axis reflects market growth rate, indicating the attractiveness of the market. Service in the high growth market should be prioritized as they are more likely to yield strong long-term returns. However, achieving growth in these markets require upfront investment, such as promotional activities or expanding operational capacity, and you can add in a little more as well, for example, research and development, etc. Now coming to the next one. Now we are going to explain one by one. Question marks. In BCG matrix, question mark, also known as the problem children, because we are talking about the plural, refer to the surveys that have low market share and high growth market rate. These offerings have the potential to grow into the leaders or stars later on if managed effectively, and stars later on to the cash cows. But doing so requires substantial investment and strategic focus. Now, you notice that this also is the introductory part for only the question marks. Now we come to the in two paragraphs. Focus on the paragraph format as well. This is not a bullet point format because this is a report. It is more of a formal nature. Also pay attention to the language, to the words that have been used, no slang language, no miss outs, proper punctuation, full stop, punctuation, commas, etc. These also have a high importance. BEAGO's ride-hailing services fit this category. The market is expanding rapidly with 11% growth rate. Reference to the data. Driven by rising urban population, also from the data, and growing customer preference for transport alternatives that don't require vehicle ownership. This is also from the resources available. Although BEAGO has seen encouraging growth in its market share, it still trails behind the main competitor Zenbai, with additional investment and strategic initiatives aimed at capturing more of the market. Because we see market is growing rapidly, so we can grab more of the market share. The ride-hailing service could quickly evolve into a star. Enhancing customer service and launching focused marketing campaign would support this transition. The next one, BEAGO's business services also fall into the question mark classification with a market growth rate of 15%. There is considerable potential, especially in that market. This is 15%. It is different from the ride-hailing services market. There is considerable potential, even more than ride-hailing, especially as companies look for more efficient alternatives owning vehicle fleets. BEAGO ranks second in this space, again reference to the data, but its market share remains low compared to dominant competitor Depart, which specializes in the business transport only. Now you will understand that BEAGO is present in all the four markets, but the others are not in all the four markets. They are dominant in one or the other. So the Depart is only focusing here and is the leading one. To grow, BEAGO would need to invest heavily in building a dedicated business service fleet and expanding its presence through strong business focused advertising. The strategy should prioritize gaining ground for smaller. You see, why are we focusing more and more on advertising? Because of already expanding market. The market is growing. So what we need to do, the people's need is there. We have to just attract them to ourselves. The strategy should prioritize gaining ground from smaller, less resourced competitors rather than directly confronting Depart. This is very obvious. It is already having a strong foothold in the business market. So we could focus on the others. Now you could suggest a different point as well. The stars, again, a little bit of a background. Stars are services that operate in a high growth market while also holding strong position in terms of market share. These offerings tend to generate substantial cash due to their competitive advantage, but they also demand continued investment to fend off the rivals and sustain the growth. This is very, very important because it's not just like cash cows. You are dominant and you can use the money for others. No, in stars you cannot. You have to keep yourself ahead of the others. BEAGO's micromobility transport solution, such as bicycles, currently falls into this category. Their popularity is rising quickly, especially amongst younger users who value sustainable, affordable, and convenient urban transport options. The market is growing at an annual rate of 14%. Thanks to recent investment in micromobility, you will get it from the pre-scene. BEAGO now leads the market in B-Land, securing a high relative market share. As a result, this segment of the business is considered a star. To maintain this leading position and potentially convert it into a future cash cow, very important, that can support other areas of business, ongoing investment will be essential so that you do not lose your ground. Cash flows, now again, it is not mentioned, you cannot identify it, but still you have to mention its absence and pay attention to analyze its absence over time. Industry mature and growth rate slows down. Services that were once classified as stars linking up there may evolve into cash cows. These services continue to hold a strong market position in low growth environment, resulting in high profitability and strong cash flow. Since the market is no longer expanding rapidly, the investment required to maintain these services is minimal. As a result, cash cows typically produce more cash than they need themselves, making them valuable sources for funding other areas of the business. Okay, that was the intro. Now, a key concern in BEAGO is the absence of any cash cow. While our star services are generating revenue, they also demand heavy investment to maintain their momentum. Meanwhile, our question mark services, ride hailing and business services have strong growth potential but require substantial funding to stay competitive. Without a dependable cash flow to support these investments, BEAGO may struggle to generate. Now, what you are doing, you are analyzing the absence of the cash cows for BEAGO. Okay, potentially weakening its competitive position in rapidly evolving markets. So this means absence of cash cow does not affect. It's not to be taken lightly. This was something from, if you had a cash cow, you could have taken funds and developed your question marks and converted into stars, which would eventually grow into your cash cows. Absence of cash cow is creating problem for others as well. Then finally, dogs, services operating in low growth or declining markets with a small relative share to competitors are referred to as dogs in BCG matrix. These offerings typically only break even, generating just enough cash to sustain their market presence without contributing significantly to profits. As a result, they tend not to attract much investor interest. They and are often considered for divestment in favor of more promising services. This is a usual suggestion when we are discussing BCG matrix, but here it will be different. Applying this classification, BEAGO's ride sharing services fall under, here should we have a, rather I will apply this. Okay. Applying this classification, BEAGO's ride-sharing service fall under the dog category. The market growth is modest at 6%, with many customers favoring ride-hailing over shared transport. Additionally, our market sharing is limited compared to our main competitor, Dell, which specializes in ride sharing and holds a larger portion of the market. Despite its categorization, divesting from now, again, analysis point, a very key area, from ride sharing may not be best course of action for BEAGO. Now, why am I focusing on this? This point actually tells the examiner that you have been thinking about the subject matter strategically. You are going one level ahead of it. Now, a usual strategy, divest. That is a usual, when we teach the topic in our classrooms, we suggest this. But how you are applying it to the current scenario, that is what matters. Although the service operates in slow growing market and we lack a competitive edge, ride sharing remains core part of our brand identity. It was the foundation of our business. Removing it could send a negative message to the stakeholder and signal a departure from our founding values. Given that the service is not a major financial burden and still contributes some revenue, it continues to play a meaningful role. Now, even if we say that it is not giving us a material reward, its mere existence is telling the market that we are attached to our values, which translates into the societal values and has built up a strong relationship in the market, which could in turn help our other products or services as well. In our overall business model, should be retained for now, at least now. Because this is a report format, we have to give a conclusion as well. Overall, our service portfolio is reasonably strong position. This is your analytical answer. With several offerings that are both well received and operating in expanding markets, at least 3 of these. However, it is essential to focus on how we can effectively support our star and question mark services so they can eventually evolve into cash cows. This transition will be critical in generating the financial resources needed to fund future growth and development across our service range. Okay, just last final tip. After you have compared your answer, I would suggest rewrite your answer. And then your comparison would be twofold, like your answer with the first one, your answer with the suggested answer that I have provided, and then you can compare the second attempt. This is all for self-development. In the second attempt, you also give notice to the time as well. When you start attempting for the second time, start uh, the timer or put an alarm and use the timer according to the video that I have already shared, where I have given you the time period, how much time to be given per mark. And then you will be able to practice it in a better way. So with this, we have come to the end of our today's session. I'll be continuing you with the same December 2024 paper, and I'll be sharing some more answers of the questions for better understanding and application of other theories and application of other uh, skills as well. So stay tuned. Thank you very much. Take care and goodbye.